So actor Michael Rapaport went on the PBD podcast and he got himself gaslit. He says now that he was wrong about Donald Trump, that the media duped him into believing things about Donald Trump that wasn't true. And he went back to the statement Donald Trump made in Charlottesville about there being very fine people on both sides. And he said, yeah, the media definitely got that one wrong. And I feel really bad about it. The guys from the PBD podcast loved this. They chimed in to say, oh, man, Michael, we're so proud of you for admitting that. You know, you got played, you got duped, the media played you, and we think you're going to vote for Trump the next time. And Michael says, I don't know if I would go that far. And they said, oh, no, we think you will, Michael, because now you realize just how much the media played you. Now you realize that Donald Trump wasn't as bad as you thought. And you take a look back at his first presidency, and yeah, he gave a bunch of mean tweets, and yeah, he was a prick. You know, he was a bad guy. He was hard to look at, but hey, the country was doing pretty good. His policies weren't bad. And then you take a look at the 4 years we've had under Biden. I don't think you want 4 more years of that. So we think you're going to vote for him in November, Michael. What I would say to Michael Rapaport is, buddy, you got yourself gaslit, and that's okay. It happens to the best of us. We all get in those kind of situations where we're surrounded by people who starts trying to make us feel guilty for the things we've said, and we do start to question our own sanity. Because that's what gaslighting is. They want you to question your own sanity, and they want to sit there and make you feel like that what you said had no merit. But it did. You were right the first time about Donald Trump. I don't care if Donald Trump did say that he condemned white supremacy. I'm going to make the point right here and show you exactly how Michael Rapaport got gaslit. It doesn't matter if Trump ever said, yeah, of course I condemn it. You have to take a look at the broader picture as to what was going on back then. And I'm going to pull up a transcript here from a press conference where Trump is talking about the very fine people statement, okay? And let's put all this into context, and we'll show you how Rapaport got gaslit. The reporter starts off and says, are you putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane? And Trump says, I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible. It was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side. You can call them left. You just call them left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is. Yes, I think there is blame on both sides. Now, when Donald Trump says something like that, do you know how these hate groups hears that? They hear that as an endorsement. Because they're going to sit there and say, see there, he's right. We were just down there minding our own business, and it was the left that came after us. Notice Trump always goes out of his way to defend it. He always goes out, well, now, wait a minute, hold on now. Before we condemn these people, let's just look over here that there was other groups that agitated them. You do not defend white supremacy under any circumstance. Whether they were provoked or not, you do not defend it, because when you make a statement like that, they hear that as an endorsement. They hear that as, oh, well, hey, see there, he's telling them like it was. That's what really happened. Now, he goes on to say this. He says, yes, I do think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did, and you had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of a very, 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 very important statue and renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Washington was a slave owner. George Washington was a slave owner, so you're going to tell me now George Washington lose his status? Are we going to take down his statues? Are we going to take down statues of George? What about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of George? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? Did you like him? Are we going to take down his statues? Again, he is comparing a traitor to this country, Robert E. Lee. He's comparing a traitor to this country to the founding fathers, okay? And I'm saying that as a Southern boy. I know Michael Rapaport wasn't born and bred here. I understand that. I had to learn the hard way that Robert E. Lee wasn't the great general. More on that later. But what Trump is saying here is, no, I'm not calling the hate groups very fine people. I'm saying you had very fine people there that was just protesting the taking down of that statue. Well, whether they were good people or not, whether they came to peacefully protest or not, they came to protest the removal of a statue of a traitor to this country that was put there by Southern apologists. Okay? After the Civil War, not the war for Southern independence like us Southern boys was taught to believe, after the Civil War, Southern apologists began rewriting history to paint Robert E. Lee in a better light because he was not the great general that we were all taught that he was. He was constantly on the offensive. He caused more troops to lose their lives than ever because he would not listen, nor would he take advice. And at the end of the day, he lost the war. And anytime that tried to get reported, you had Southern apologists trying to rewrite history. Just like they're doing now with January 6th, when Mike Johnson comes out and says, wait a minute, we got footage over here. When Marjorie Taylor Greene calls them patriots and hostages, it is history repeating itself. And Donald Trump is standing up there and he's comparing a traitor to this country to the Founding Fathers, and he's saying that they're trying to rewrite history and do away with history, and that is the same exact narrative that these hate groups are putting out there. So, yeah, he does go on to say, of course I condemn the neo-Nazis. Of course I condemn white supremacy. You have to condemn that. Okay, he said those things, but he threw them enough bones to where they will say, oh, well, now he had to say that. But you heard him. You heard him talking about how they're trying to do away with our history. You heard him talking about how they attacked us first. That's the part that people are missing. You can gaslight somebody easily by showing them, say, hey, look, what's Trump say here that he condemns it? Yeah, he said it. But take a look at what, as he would say, take a look at what else he said. And that's where you will realize you were gaslit. It does not matter if there was very fine people. Look, some of the people that showed up that day to protest that statue, they might be good neighbors. You know, they might feed your dogs for you while you're on vacation. You know, they might watch after the place while you and your family goes to the beach. They may bring you a bushel of beans out of the garden. They may be good people, but they were duped into believing that this traitor deserved a statue. That's what needs to be said. So it doesn't matter what Trump said later. It doesn't matter what anyone said later. The context of this is there was a protest because we were removing a statue of a guy that did not deserve to be honored, a statue that should have never been put there in the first place. And he's comparing that traitor to the Founding Fathers. That feeds right into the hate group's narrative. And I'm saying this as someone that was born in the South and taught to believe that Robert E. Lee was a great general. Okay? So Michael Rapaport went out there and he got himself gaslit. It happens to the best of us, Michael, because I was gaslit my entire life living here. I was gaslit my entire life. I was told that rebel flag just meant Leonard Skinner, buddy. That's all it means. I had to learn the hard way that these things I was taught as a kid just weren't the damn truth. Don't lose sight. Don't take your eye off the ball, okay? If anybody could get this video to Michael Rapaport, I'd say this. You got gaslit. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. But do not take your eye off the ball. And when you put it into context, ask yourself, did he really condemn it, or did he just throw them the bones they were dying for?